Julie Murphy, and it's Talk to a Farmer, Talk to a Rancher, Talk to Extension Specialist, Talk to University of Agriculture professionals. And that's what we're doing in this series on Talk to a Farmer, Talk to a Rancher. So yes, I don't exclusively talk to my farmers and ranchers, but the series we're doing on discovering extension is quite exciting. And I have a very special guest and have known her from quite some time and have always admired your work. Is Sharon Megdal, director for the Water Resources Research Center. And it's actually kind of partnered / part of Extension. We'll get into that. Mm-hmm. So we're continuing the series. It will probably most likely, if we get every one of the counties and their directors interviewed, it will probably take us into the new year before we get this series completed. But for those that are joining us live, if you have a question for me or a question for Sharon, it has to be on water. It has to be on Arizona water. You can certainly put it in the comments. And Joel, who's behind the iPhone camera, so to speak, he'll shout it out and we can have a question answered. Normally we don't get them, so we might be pleasantly surprised. And in the meantime, this will also be shared on Instagram. It will stay on Instagram after this live is over with. And also we upload it to our website, Arizona Farm Bureau's website, azfb.org. And Sharon, welcome to Talk to a Farmer, Talk to a Rancher Friday.
Well, thank you for having me, and welcome to the Water Resources Research Center, because we're sitting in my office here in Tucson, Arizona.
Yep.
Just slightly off the University of Arizona campus. And if people are familiar where the football stadium is, we're almost within earshot of the football stadiums.
How fun.
Yeah.
So if you're working late at night during a football game, which would be the weekend, which that means you're very dedicated.
No, I'm not here then. But we do occasionally have Friday afternoon games, but they ask us to depart from campus. People actually use our parking lot for football games.
Bet. Yeah. Every piece of space during a Wildcats football game is premium.
Yes, exactly.
Land.
But welcome to the Water Center.
Thank you. I think it's fun to be here. So I'm trying to gear questions for my audiences here on Instagram, especially Gen Z, and really trying to make sure that we make some of the things that we do in agriculture, and certainly at the university level, that can kind of at first seem a little bit complicated. I kind of want to try to draw in their interest in some of the things that you do. And so my first question is, what's one surprising way that Arizona's water resources hit us daily?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And you asked, what is one surprising way? Because, of course, we use water every day, whether it's for brushing our teeth, drinking, showering, whatever it is. But maybe what's most surprising would be to stop and think about the water that we don't see. The water that's embedded in the food we eat, in our energy sources, we turn on the light, in our cell phones.
Cell phones.
I mean, fabricating the chip that's in the cell phone. Some of that is done right here in Arizona. There's water used for mining, the copper that goes into our cars and other things. Water is embedded in just about everything. And so maybe that's the thing that would be surprising to people to stop and think about, because it's easy enough. Wash our car, take a drink, brush our teeth, take a shower, flush the toilet. Those are the things that are obvious.
Yeah.
But there's the water that we don't see that's embedded in our lives in almost everything we do.
We cannot function or survive without it. Absolutely. Yep.
And like I said, you think about a cell phone. We're looking at the cell phone right here, and the chips and the other things that go into it. Lots of water, sometimes ultra pure water. So the technology that goes into providing clean water for the various uses, that's all, part and parcel of our water picture.
So another fun question I want to ask you, if water could direct message you or DM you advice basically for surviving our water challenges here in Arizona, because we are in the Southwest in a desert state, what would you say it would say to you?
Okay, so before I answer the direct question about direct messaging, I think if it's okay, I'd like to give a little bit of context
Sure.
about our water challenges,
Mm-hmm.
because I've been working now at the Water Center for over 20 years, and I've been working on water resources for over 30 years. And every day or every talk I give to a community group, find out that water is often taken for granted, because many of us, especially those of us who live in the cities, we have water providers that it's their job to make sure we have water 24/7, to make sure we have good quality water. And so a lot of people might not realize the water challenges that we do face. And we do face water challenges. We live in a desert. We've always been a water scarce area in that we don't have lots of rain and that sort of thing, and lots of natural, rivers that flow. But more recently, certainly since the turn of the century, the Colorado River, which supplies a lot of water to Arizona, both on the river to places like Yuma, Arizona, and cities and towns along the river, Colorado River Indian tribes, but then through the Central Arizona Project brings Colorado River into Central Arizona. Very important source of water. Less is flowing on that river due to changing climate, temperatures warming earlier in the year, and so forth. So there's less water available on the Colorado River.
And it's a huge concern right now.
It is a huge concern and challenge. And things are not projected to get better anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
The other big water source for us is water under the ground that we don't see. That's another invisible water.
Yeah.
Arizona depends a lot. Over 40%, if you look at the state, of our water supplies come from water that's pumped from underground. We don't see it. And it's not being replaced at the rate at which it's being used. So that's another challenge.
Yeah.
All right. So to your question about what I would have water direct message, it would be keep me clean, don't pollute me, and don't waste me or overuse me or abuse me. Treat me with care, use me with care.
I love that.
Yeah. So it really is part of our everyday lives. And you may think of it like the little things, but just remember that this is a precious resource and we need it for pretty much everything we do, and we've got to use it wisely.
We need to treat it good. And we don't always. I think we get so used to our day-to-day and our routines, we're not really even thinking about, wait a minute, I should turn off the faucet while I'm brushing my teeth, turn it back on,
Yeah, and
little things like that.
And just, if you're thinking about outdoor watering, again, these are just facts that within the cities, a lot of the water used by homeowners and on residential properties is for outdoor watering. Well, if it's rained recently, maybe adjust that timer not to automatically run and so forth. So there's lots of little things we could do, but keep it in, be water conscious. That's, I think, an important thing.
That's great. So now kind of shifting to the nitty gritty, I love when you explain exactly what the Water Resources Research Center is. Do that for especially anyone that might be introduced newly to what this important center does on their behalf and for all of us.
Well, thank you for that question. So the Water Resources Research Center has been around a long time. It's one of the older centers, if not maybe the oldest center on this campus at the University of Arizona. We were established in 1964, and we're actually a federally authorized center. There's a network of us around the country, one in every state, Washington, D.C., and some of the territories. And we're typically located at land-grant universities. University of Arizona is the land-grant university. And here at the University of Arizona, we are located with an extension and within the Division of Agriculture and Life and Veterinary Sciences and Extension. And so that's not the case for all the other centers, but that's where we are, and that's a great place for us to be. So I think it's important for us to be recognized as part of the University of Arizona, part of Extension, part of the College of Agriculture, Life, and Environmental Sciences. We also happen to be located, and you're here with us today, in the old Boy Scouts building.
Yeah.
And
Okay, fun.
I like to show a slide when I give presentations, and I give a lot of them, with a photo, and I ask how many of you know or remember the motto of the Boy Scouts. And of course, anybody who was a Boy Scout or a parent of a Boy Scout or whatever will know it's be prepared. And I often say that that's relevant when you come to water planning and management and so forth. So the University of Arizona is huge. There are lots of people working on research relating to plants and technology and microbiology and stuff. But here at the Water Center, as an extension, outwardly focused center, we're really bridging the academic community and what we can do and have to offer with the communities at large in Arizona. And we are a statewide center, so we're located on the campus, but our purview is really the state, right? And so what are some of the things we do to meet our mission of educating people or promoting the understanding of critical water resource issues through, this is what we do. We do it through engagement. We have a number of programs that are specifically to engage individuals, including experts and non-experts alike. And one of them is our webinar series. So we have a WRRC webinar series. It tends to run during the academic year because we're still, we operate 12 months a year, but we're still kind of connected to that university calendar. And we run webinars on all kinds of topics. We just had one this week by Arizona Water Company. And Arizona Water Company has 24 systems throughout the state of Arizona. Really? They are a privately operated company that serves many small communities or smaller communities, but also serves like Apache Junction in Maricopa, well, in Pinal County, but in the Phoenix active management area. And then we had one on the Internet of Water and bringing in things about the internet. These are typically at noon. They're webinars. They're free to register. We record, we post them because we're really trying to get information out. And this semester, we've had close, if not more than 100 people attending each one of our webinars and many more registering. And I say this because I want people to know about our webinars, and they can subscribe to our weekly wave by going to our website, which is wrrc.arizona.edu. So that's one of our programs. Another one that's really geared to bring together audiences of varied backgrounds from around the state and even beyond is our annual conference. So we do an annual conference, and thank you for being there, on various topics of importance to Arizona and often beyond. So last year's, or actually we're still in 2025, this year's conference was on sharing water across borders, where borders can be any kind of border, with Mexico, within the state, with tribal nations, urban, rural, and very broadly defined. And so that's also something, yes, we do have to charge when people are attending because we're feeding them, but we also live stream it for free so people can sign up. Again, we'd love to have people connect with us by subscribing to the Weekly Wave. We publicize all that we do. We do some research. We have applied research projects. One of them that I'm close to being wrapped up, maybe a year or so longer, is with a USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture funded project looking at the sustainability of groundwater dependent agriculture. And the area we're looking at in Arizona is in the Pinal County area. Oh, wow. And we're working with the University of California, Davis, and New Mexico State University and some of the other California universities. And working with one of our soil health specialists here, with looking at cover crops and things like that. So that's an example of an applied research project. I teach a course, a graduate course on water policy in Arizona and semi-arid areas or regions. That's specific to me. And then we put out county fact sheets. We put out publications like the Arroyo publication, which again, it's free online. It's geared to our general audience, and it focuses on the topic of the prior year's conference. And then the county fact sheets, which you've told me you find useful.
Yes, I use them all the time.
Yeah.
We've used them even for our social media because if I'm going to describe, for example, Cochise County's water mix, then I know you guys have done the research, and I always give you guys credit.
Thank you.
But these, they're up on your website.
Yes.
And if you can't remember the URL, I just plug in
Water
Resources Research Center. So, like on Maricopa County, what I like to point out is their mix on the pie up here is going to be completely different than Cochise County's mix on their pie, like surface water, groundwater, reclaimed water versus Maricopa County. And that's what I've always tried, and your team taught me that, is that every region of the county's water availability, percentages, use is unique to that region.
Absolutely.
Of the state.
And I emphasize that in talks that I give, even international talks, because a lot of times people don't know where is even Arizona. So I show a map where Arizona is. But then if you start talking about, like I did earlier, that X% of the state's water use comes from the Colorado River and Y% comes from groundwater. Well, that's a statewide average. Mm-hmm. But then you've got to drill down, no pun intended, with wells, but you've got to drill down into each county to look at their situations. And then it gets even more complicated because depending on the land ownership situation, it can differ. Right. Tribal nations don't come under Arizona state groundwater laws, for example. And then federal lands, we have tremendous amount of federal lands in the state of Arizona, and certain things don't apply to them or may apply differently. And then you've got state lands and you've got, state and local lands. So it's very local. Water in the end ends up being very local. So I'm glad the county fact sheets have been helpful to you.
Well, the other thing that I have done, because obviously with the research that you had to do to make sure what that county's water resources were, you couldn't get them all released at the same time. So whenever it was announced that a new county finally got theirs researched, and I got to go to that one. I have to confess, a lot of times, and my BFFs will tell you I'm a little bit geeky when it comes to it. If I can rely on those that are truly doing the research, legitimately qualified, land grant university type of things, then I feel a lot more confident in telling our water story. So I'm telling you as a user of your resources how it benefits us.
Well, that's great. And another thing about our work is how we do our work. Mm-hmm. And it's related to the county fact sheets, the Arroyo, our research projects and others, is that we do things in partnership. And so every one of these county fact sheets assembled a local group of technical advisors.
Wow.
And so they helped shape particularly the part of the fact sheet that's geared to the particular county. Because if you look at the cover sheet looks, at least the top, looks fairly standard because we're trying to give an overview of the state.
Yeah.
And then, though, you go inside. Well, what do things look like for that particular county? Yeah. And then what are the challenges faced by the county? And so that we needed to hear from local people. And then we have a section on resources. And that's the other part of what do. We do have a highly regarded website. People go there and find things there. And so we do put a lot of effort into that.
Give the URL one more time.
wrrc.arizona.edu.
Or just Google
Water Resources Research Center or Arizona Water Resources Research Center. And we have a nice search engine on it, so if people are looking at it. One of my goals as director of the Water Center, and John, the person who maintains and puts things on the website, knows, is that I want people to be able to find things they're not even looking for. Because it's one thing when you're looking for something, okay, I'll find it. But sometimes what I want things is to pop out at people and know that these things are there and they might not have even been looking for it. So being, having our information accessible, working in partnership. And then another thing that we do to our best ability is respond to inquiries, provide guidance, be a gateway into the rest of our vast extension network and research activity and
Yep.
research enterprise. We don't know everything. We're not experts on everything, but we do our best to try to guide people to others when we can't answer a question. And there are a couple times where it's like, well, I don't think maybe you need to contact the Arizona Department of Water Resources or your utility if it's a question about that, because we clearly don't have all the information.
You become a connector too. Then.
Right.
Well, since you're director, and I think I heard you earlier say how many years have you been here now?
Well, I've been here at the Water Center since 2002.
Okay.
And I've been director since 2004. It's a long time.
It,
Showing my age here, but
I just celebrated this month 19 years at Arizona Farm Bureau.
oh wow, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, and congratulations to you in your role. So give us some background, though. It makes me a little bit curious about you.
Well, we probably have to have a whole separate session about
go.
that. But I'll try to make it very condensed. So I grew up in New Jersey, and I went to school in New Jersey. And when I was done with graduate school in economics, almost done, I was still finishing my dissertation, I moved out here to Arizona. And one of the reasons my husband and I ended up here, not only because his brother lived here, but we wanted to get somewhere where it didn't snow, and Arizona was
cold
a good
in New Jersey.
Yeah, Arizona is a good place. So I've been here ever since, and it's been a long time now. I didn't come here as a water person, and I didn't come here as particularly knowledgeable about agriculture. But some things happened in my life, and that's part of the things that we won't necessarily go into, other than my saying that I had the honor and privilege of being appointed to the Arizona Corporation Commission by then Governor Bruce Babbitt to serve on an interim basis. And that's where I got introduced to water, through the Corporation Commission's regulation of privately owned water companies. And after that, I was actually away from academia for a while, so I started here in the economics department. And as I like to say it, I became reincarnated as a water person.
Okay.
Through the Corporation Commission and some other things. And so I came back here to the university in the early 2000s here at the Water Center. And really, this is why I think it's maybe a separate conversation for a different audience. Yeah. But my training was not in water. It was not in agriculture. It was not in municipal water systems. I learned a lot when I was away from academia through some jobs I had about water. And so here I am many years later, and most of my knowledge and experience is actually on the job training.
Wow.
And so agriculture, I never felt deprived when I grew up in New Jersey that I didn't come from an agricultural family. But here in Arizona, agriculture is and New Jersey, by the way, is the Garden State. People might not know that. And a lot of it's become houses, but there's still a lot of good tomatoes and other things grown there. But there's so much agriculture here. It's so much part of our legacy. And so learning about agriculture has been part of my on-the-job training. And it's something I've really enjoyed. I enjoy getting out in the field. I've learned so much, whether it's the chili farm of Ed Curry down in the Wilcox area, whether it's the Auction farms or the Gila River farms in central Arizona, or Maricopa Stanfield, whether it's Yuma. Getting out in the field is something that I learn and I love. I learn every time I'm out.
And the pun is intended on this, but when you first began to learn about water in Arizona, was it like drinking from a fire hydrant?
It is. Drinking from I often use the term drinking from a hose. Drinking from a fire hydrant is probably even better. And you learn something every day. You really learn something every day. Fun fact, being out in the field, the college and cooperative extension used to take new faculty out in the field, and they're doing it again. And I think it's then when, we go to the supermarket and we get these bagged lettuce packages and so forth. And so if you ever get the mixed greens, you might think that, well, they grow the baby spinach separate from the red leaf lettuce and then mix it together. But they're actually growing it in the field that way. And they harvest it right there. They bag it right there. And it goes to feed feed us.
And the other thing I like to tell people is, because they're constantly harvesting here in Yuma during the winter, they've staggered planting times. So there's always a field that is being harvested during that window of time that they're producing our leafy greens. Joel, how are we doing? We doing good? Mm-hmm. He gave us a thumbs up, everybody. Again, for those that have just recently joined us, I'm interviewing Sharon Megdal, Director for the Water Resources Research Center. It is part of Extension, and this is part of that ongoing series where I don't know if we're going to hit every county, but we're going to talk to a lot of the county extensions, and then the center that's part of the whole mix. We're taking some time, and plus we're learning more about water. And then to that, what's the wildest water savings technology in agriculture that we all should take note of from your perspective? On the job learning, understanding Arizona agriculture more and water use in general.
Yeah, I think if you ask that to a farmer, then depending on what they're growing, they would have very different answers.
They may,
right, than I might. And I'm not sure any of this is wild, but technology is changing, and there is so much information that can be shared through these remote apps and remote monitoring and so forth. And so agriculture, this may not be surprising to people in the ag sector, but it's very high tech.
Yeah.
And I think people don't realize that.
Right.
Certainly the large scale agriculture is very high tech in terms of what they do with leveling their fields and how they plant. And even, how they're growing things. Again, these are not wild things. These are just highly interesting things. Not everything is germinated in the field. Certain things are germinated in the greenhouse and then planted and so forth. But I think some of the use of technology and monitoring, I keep hearing about apps on this and an app for that. And so I think that's really interesting. I've heard recently there's a company that has a product developed in Australia. The CEO's now here in Texas, where they're monitoring leaks for stock ponds and so forth. And so trying to optimize our use of water. You can't say maximize our use of water because we don't want to maximize. We want to use only what's needed. But to optimize the use of water, the use of technology is really, really helpful. And then even like I said, every time I go out, I learn. And you talked about the schedule. A couple years ago, when the University of Arizona had a presidential commission on the future of food and agriculture in a changing climate, went out to Yuma. We had a meeting out in Yuma. On the way, we stopped at, met with farmer, a few of us on the commission, and we saw his spreadsheet, his very complicated spreadsheet of I grow this then and this at this time and so forth. But we also saw the tags on the water quality monitoring that is going on for the water quality that's going to the lettuce and so forth. Yeah, so the monitoring and the treatment and everything to keep our food safe and get it harvested and in real time and so forth. It may not be the wildest thing, but it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. And I always have my farmer friends remind me that, Julie, some of the simplest technologies have actually made some of the biggest impact. And I'm looking at them and think about a cement ditch, how much seepage and water loss it prevents when we get to apply cement to our ditches. And then I'm always so stunned and amazed at, I can be hanging out with one of my farmers and he's checking something and I'm looking over his shoulder. I said, okay, he says, I'm checking my pivots. I'm making sure they're coming off and going off correctly. And then soil probes, you had mentioned them earlier when we were visiting, putting the soil probes in there to test moisture. I remember when I was a little girl on the farm, Dad used to have a soil probe, but it was kind of more mechanical, I guess, where he would shove it into the soil, turn it around, pull that soil, and he could test the moisture levels. Well, it's become a lot more sophisticated in just the last decade. So some of it is maybe not wild, to your point, but it's amazing.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
So your group, your center has a photo contest going on. Talk about that. What's the genesis of that? And can anybody enter?
Absolutely. And again, go to our website, wrrc.arizona.edu.
Okay.
It's actually right on the homepage. And, we have little things we put and give out and so forth because we're very into QR codes. So, we want people to find our things. So the photo contest we've been running now for several years. Even most recently, like everything, you always try to improve what you're doing. And I asked my staff, why are we waiting to open it for entries? Because it sounded like, we'd open in like September for the December deadline. And I go around and I give lots of talks and I would say, and we do a photo contest, but it wasn't open yet. So now we have it open earlier.
Oh, good.
And we want water connected photos in the broadest sense of water. And if you go on our site, in fact, I printed out because it says this year is we're looking for the many ways water transforms our world and how humanity transforms water. From any location, we invite you to capture how water connects to people, nature, the built environment, and agriculture. It's completely up to you. In the past, we had it more Arizona focused with one of our, we have awards. We do have categories.
Oh, cool.
And we have a committee of staff. I'm not involved in it. And of course, staff can't enter it of awards. And we have a first place and maybe a runner up and a best in show. But we used to focus, previous years, focus more on Arizona with one category from anywhere else. This year, we're opening up and see what we get because we want lots of entries. We use these photos. The one thing we ask, there's no fee involved, but the one thing we ask of those who enter is to give us permission to use our photos, their photos. We may use it in our annual report, on our homepage. I may use it in a presentation, and they're spectacular. And some of the most highly rated photos are often of animals, and animals and water and so forth. And so we really do invite people from all over. And one of the interesting things is the Poetry Center, and this is where we love to connect and we love to partner. The Poetry Center at the University of Arizona, which is a wonderful poetry center, has a project called Dear Body of Water. And it's connected to a woman who had this concept. And what it invites is people to either write a postcard, and we have physical postcards out in our lobby, or online, write a poem, write a dear body of water. And they actually came to us and used some of our photos from the photo contest for the postcards.
Okay, you guys are getting very artsy.
Well, it's important because
and creative.
It's water. There's so many ways to learn about, express, and it is art. It's not only science, it's not only technology, it's not only economics, but it's in our everyday lives and expressed in so many ways.
And the thing that I think can come out of this, Joel, you'll have to enter, maybe.
Maybe, yeah, it sounds very cool.
Hey, if you're taking photos, Joel, Joel's here behind the camera, making sure we don't go astray here and how we're doing things.
He's pretty artistic, so we
love it.
Painted and all that cool stuff. The thing that I think there obviously is a primary benefit to you because you're asking for permission for the use of these photos for other things. But if one of your roles is to try to sensitize people to their use of water, if all of a sudden I'm thinking, I want to be part of this contest, it's all about water, what is it going to do for me? And if I do a little bit of my research, I can find out about the center and then I can discover, I don't know, I just think subliminally it's going to create a little bit more of a conscious state of our appreciation for water and not waste water.
Right. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be photos of big bodies of water. No. In fact, the staff here knows that sometimes they use photos that I think conveys photos that may convey water abundance. And I'll pick a photo of maybe a creek or a stream that doesn't have a lot of water because again, we're not water abundant. And yes, we have lakes and we have beautiful bodies of water as well. But so again, it's in the eyes of the beholder, and we're not prescriptive at all on
Yeah.
what we'd like to see entered.
Well, for those of you on Instagram and lean on this app, and it's the place for photos, you're going to have to check this out on the Water Resources Research Center's website, and I'm sure there's parameters to it. Does it have to be a photo taken within Arizona?
No, in
No.
fact, this year, that's what I'm saying, this year is broader than ever,
Oh, okay.
and it doesn't even have to be taken this year.
Oh,
So if people have photos in their library,
Yeah.
Please consider
okay.
submitting them.
Awesome.
Yeah, in fact, if we get a big uptick in photo submissions in the next week or so, or when you do this, we're going to thank the Farm Bureau
Yes.
for
Give us
doing
credit.
that. Absolutely.
So Gen Z, it's one of our audiences that views these, is all about low effort wins. Because if we get a win, even if it's not a big or high end, they're good at knowing how to celebrate. So what's one app or hack or habit to cut out our water footprint that we can apply?
Well,
Even if it's, especially if it's different from the norm.
yeah.
We know that we should be taking only 5-minute showers instead of 20-minute showers. Teenagers, because I remember when I can raise my hand for being in trouble for taking too long of a shower. So those are obvious. Or use those thermoses instead of plastic water bottles.
Right. In fact, I understand some of your audience and participants are influencers.
Yes, we do.
And when I had the opportunity to chat with some influencers a couple of years ago, because I don't regularly interact with influencers, although I'm sure I walk right next to influencers and I don't know who they are.
Know.
But what I said to them was, well, maybe you could figure out how to get some of these nice, and I won't mention any names, but these nice water thermos type canisters. Their colors and they're all pretty neat, and influence people to use them instead of the plastic water bottles.
Yep.
And I use plastic water bottles sometimes because I'm driving in the car. It's the easiest thing. I keep sealed in case my car breaks down. I need to have water. Drive across the desert, you got to have water with you. And sometimes that's the easiest way to do it. But for our everyday use of water, first of all, I just want to say that the tap water that most utilities serve is very good quality water. So people who might think they need to drink bottled water for safety reasons may want to think twice about that. Is that a hack? Is that an app? I don't know. But I do think people should stop and think, do I really need that plastic bottle of water? Not only is it more expensive than the tap water, but the plastic in the water, for the water bottle, there's water used in creating that plastic. And then the trash associated with plastic, I hope most people know, is really significant. And so, think about, going back to what I said earlier about the water that you may not see, even the container for the water that has water in it.
Right.
And so it's not, it's not a hack. It's just becoming accustomed to recognizing that water is something you shouldn't waste. You need to stay informed. Young people who are in school or starting school, there's a new program, a master's program for training hydrologists, because there's not enough professional hydrologists for all the firms that are looking for professionals to help them evaluate the water resources and model groundwater to inform decision making. So I would love it if the young people would think that, well, maybe a career related to water is kind of cool and not boring.
It really would be when you think about
it. Would be. So, and to stay informed and not take water for granted. And this may sound really uninteresting, but if you really want to have an impact, it's what's necessary.
Yeah. I never buy plastic water bottles because I have the reverse osmosis purification system, which, to your point, I probably don't even need because the city water systems are good. But I'm now habitually using those thermoses because when they're with you, and so I remind myself to drink more, so I feel like I'm a little bit more hydrated. And it's always so refreshingly cool here in Arizona. Whereas you have a plastic water bottle and they warm up so fast. So now I'm like, religious about them. And I never was. Just in the last year, I've become, I have my thermos in the car, don't I?
Mm-hmm.
And thermos is like one of those words like Xerox and things and Kleenex. Thermos is a brand, but we're not talking about a particular brand here. We're talking about a container,
You're right?
And I use the word as well because that kind of describes it. But the other thing is because I'm more of a social scientist and I'm a water policy and management person, I pick up on the things that are interesting things to know. And for people, there's concern these days about the quality of water with pharmaceuticals and if people follow what's going on with PFAS, which is some of these, chemicals. And what I understand to be the case, and an RO system, a reverse osmosis system in your house is great. But that filter system on your refrigerator or even those Brita filters, again, that's a brand, but there's other filters. Those can be very helpful and very effective.
Right.
So people need to know that, again, people should want to know the water they're drinking and using is safe. And the water served by utilities is safe. There's ways to add a filter if you want to.
Yeah.
So people need to know that. It's not particularly sexy, exciting information, but it's important information.
I think it's a hack, and I think the Gen Z generation will appreciate
they'll let you know, maybe. Yeah. They can let you know.
Well, I'm going to add a question, because I have been asking most of the directors from the county extension. I didn't have it on the list, but I'm going to ask you, in your words, in Sharon Megdal's words, what do you feel is the most critical aspect or the mission of extension, since we're talking about the Water Resources Research Center today, but you are part of extension.
So extension's mission, and I think I have this memorized right because it's a very simple one, is improving Arizona communities. How does it do that? That's an important question. And it is, and this is in the word, it's extending the university to the people, to the communities. And for some, I had no training in extension. And in fact, I'll share with you, my undergraduate degree was from Rutgers University. It is the land-grant university in New Jersey. Yeah. I went to the women's division, which happened to be right next to Cook College, which is the ag college. But other than thinking, why are there cows over there? It's next to us. Really had no connection, no identity with the land grant part of the university. But to some, so I had no training as an undergraduate, as a graduate student. And so again, maybe learning by doing, but also sometimes doing things your own way. A lot of people have described extension as the outreach part of it, the reaching out from the university with the science, with the work of the university. And that is really, really critical, clearly. But I like to use the engagement word in describing extension. It's outreach and it's engagement. And I see that as a two-way street. I see that as sharing. And I'm not saying that others who use the word outreach don't see it as the two-way, but to me, it's that engagement where you're kind of bringing the external and academic communities together throughout the process of your work. And lately, they've even come up, I think, with a more fancy word, and that's transdisciplinary.
Oh,
the word isn't that fancy? And don't ask me what interdisciplinary versus multidisciplinary means, because I have trouble with that. But transdisciplinary is viewed as the approach where you have the external help define your research questions and carry through the research. And so, and it's really high on the list of importance and approach to this, not only for land-grant universities. So what does extension mean? It means engagement. It means bringing in, and it means working together on these things, and not only, and I don't think anybody is saying it is only at this point, but sometimes the word suggests that bringing the work of others at the university out. It's actually formulating the work of the
Yeah.
university together.
Yeah. It's a great partnership. And I love too that when we're good listeners, all stakeholders in the group, we can really, like in agriculture, and I always relate it to agriculture because I'm the Aggie kid, grew up on a farm, partnered with my parents through 2005. I mean, and then I still, thanks to Arizona Farm Bureau, get to live and breathe it. But I've always been impressed when, especially the ag research centers, when the farmers come to them with a problem, we're having this devastating, leaf rot or whatever, leaf greens. You need to help us research what's the cause and how we can, and have a prescriptive solution by the time the research is done from the university team. So it's amazing when the stakeholders, like you said, engage together.
Yeah, and I mentioned the Yuma with the water quality, and that's just a great example when there was some concerns about the E. coli, which resulted in some lettuce from the area having to be taken off the market. And the university really stepped up, and my colleague Chana Rock, I'll mention her by name, just did did amazing work about that, and that was a great example of the university working with the growers and with the water users in the area to come up with a solution, and working, with agencies. Again, the partnerships involve regulatory agencies and
USDA,
others.
FDA.
Right.
And when we get it right, we get it right. Deep thoughts, but
right.
So I'm asking the futuristic question, as always. In 10 years, where do you see the center?
Yeah, that's always a hard thing. We get so immersed in our day-to-day things and to think about the future. But we think about the future, and I think about the future. And what is the future we're looking toward? 10 years is a good time horizon, because sometimes people ask 30, 20, 50, they ask 30 years out or so forth. Things are changing so rapidly. And a good example of that right now is the discussion about data centers and their water use. And I have a friend, retired emeritus professor colleague, who wrote a little graphic pie chart where it showed that right now, close to 3/4 of the water used in Arizona, diverted, extracted, is by agriculture. And he showed a graphic in the future that 3/4 might be for data centers and the energy for data centers.
Wow.
That was just kind of like a cartoon graphic he came up. The world is changing very rapidly, and we, the Water Center, like everybody else, we have to stay relevant, and we have to try to keep ourselves educated, keep on top of things. And it's a challenge, but our staying relevant, our being able to educate, because there not only are there new young people, so there's always a new generation and new people, but Arizona still is a growth state. We still have new people coming in. And one of the things that I do when I have a small enough audience is I often ask people, where did you grow up? Because I want to know. Like, I grew up in New Jersey, as I discussed earlier. We didn't worry about water quantity in New Jersey. And I want to know, what are people's mindsets? And so I think because we always have new people, we always have young people, some of what we do, we will have to continue to do. Will AI be able to take over what we do? I kind of think maybe it'll help, but I hope we'll still be relevant. So where do I see us in 10 years? I'd like to see us as relevant. I'd like to see us as a resource. And I'd like to see us continue in partnership so people help us stay relevant and help us continue to be a resource.
I think we'll get it figured out with the AI, and I think it's going to end up being more of an enhancer, an advancer, and it won't, any technology can be intimidating at the very beginning, but I always look at something with the glass, to use another water metaphor, the glass half full instead of half empty. Remember what, I know I can, when we thought computers would fix everything and reduce our work. I literally remember people saying as these get more advanced, they're going to reduce our work. They didn't reduce our work; they increased our work because they enabled us. Automating computer systems enabled us to actually get more done, and now we've got more on our plates than we can handle. But Sharon, this conversation has been absolutely wonderful and enjoyable. And is there any last commentary or takeaway that you would like us all to?
Well, thank you for inviting me to join you for this interview, podcast, whatever you call it. And I just have to say, if there's a passion, know where your water comes from. And I don't mean the tap. Is it coming from the river? Is it coming from the ground? And just stay water conscious. We need people to understand water is a valuable resource, not necessarily by what we pay for it, but what it means for us. And without it, our economy, our vitality, our lives will change. So I want everybody to recognize and continue to remember that water is really important. Don't waste it. Be informed, and just be water wise.
Yeah, it's a resource we cannot live without. We need to treasure it.
That's right.
Yep. Thank you again, Sharon.
Thank you.
And thank you for everyone that joined us, and check us out later on the web or on our Instagram account.